Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You watch BORDJ News Live, and welcome to this English news edition coming up in the next 20 minutes. Ahead of tomorrow's crucial voting session on the new constitution, the adoption of its organic laws looms as the opposition boycotts. Plus, starting from next June, the eastern province of BORDJ BOU ARERRIJ, also known as electronics capital, is holding the main foundation for the creation of the first national technologies industry pole. And later on in our news programs, over 100 missing, scores dead as strong quake rattles Taiwan. Hello there again, and thanks for joining us. First, in our top stories, tomorrow Sunday will be a crucial day in the Algerian political scene as the Parliamentary Joint Committee will vote for the country's #1 document, the Constitution. This will mark a new phase, which is just as important as the amendment phase because the organic laws in the Constitution will finally be adopted. This constitutes a real challenge for the new government that will be formed in line with the new Constitution. Lamia Ashush for more details.
The upcoming February 7th will be the date when the 8th Algerian Republic Constitution will be put into effect, should the parliamentary vote be in favor of the latter, a document that pro-government parties fully endorse, unlike the opposition. Several changes are expected after the ratification of the new constitution, most importantly the possible resignation of the Prime Minister's government, according to Article 86 of the Constitution, giving the President the prerogative to appoint a new Prime Minister after having consulted the parliamentary majority, as stated in Article 77. Another challenge still facing the Legislative Committee is the urgency of reviewing the organic laws regulating the relationship of the two houses of Parliament with the government, as well as the internal law of the committee itself. The new government's preparation of its schedule and roadmap in order to present it to the lower house of Parliament is also constitutionally documented in Article 80. In addition to other organic laws, such as the election and political parties laws.
We will wait for 1 or 2 months and start with brand new institutions and mechanisms. But since the current mandate is still ongoing, Parliament will continue its works normally, and then a new government will be put in place. And it'll have to present urgent laws, such as the organic laws regulating the relationship of the two houses of Parliament with the government, because there are new procedures in line with the new legislative prerogatives given to Parliament.
The new constitution comes to make the president's 2011 reforms concrete, and as important as the amendment phase has been, the adoption of the organic laws phase proves just as important.
Always with the same context ahead of tomorrow's votes, the opposition is almost unanimously agreeing on boycotting the voting session. This has brought the opposition together following its recurring factions in the past year. The opposition is maintaining its refusal of the new constitution despite the fact that its stances wouldn't affect the results of the vote. Lamia Ashush again.
The Constitution Amendment has unified the opposition once again under the slogan of boycott, which years ago was also adopted by a unified opposition against President Bouteflika's 4th term before April 2014 presidential elections. All opposition parties in Parliament, except for the Workers' Party, have decided to boycott the parliamentary session dedicated to the voting on the new constitution.
We will meet with the other parliamentary bodies in order to try to come up with a unified position. The opposition agrees on the refusal of this project. It is deliberating how to express this refusal.
This agreement comes after a long-term fallout. Just a year ago, the opposition veteran party, the FFS, was betting on a national consensus conference initiated from the government's home, the FLN party. while the Coordination for a Democratic Transition Coalition was busy trying to organize street protests to condemn what it called a political stalemate, using the shale gas controversy then as a motive. This drove the FFS party to leave the opposition coalition, dealing a heavy blow to the latter, which added to the already detrimental frictions between the head of the Justice and Development Front party, Abdullah Jabala, and the head of the MSP party, Abdurrazzaq Makri, leading to the postponing of the Mazafran II Congress, which was set to be held last year.
We did not participate in this committee, which we consider merely formal and won't change anything. Even if the boycott will not affect the results of the vote, we will still need to maintain our positions. Numbers do not matter. It is now clear that this amendment is not a consensus one, with opposition parties opposing it.
The opposition is, however, aware that its size cannot match that of the parliamentary majority, even if all its factions agree, especially after the government reinforced its position by including free MPs and parties with limited representation in the yes voters list to the new constitution. However, the opposition still maintains that saying no is its historic duty, even if it wouldn't stop the government from passing a constitution that has been dubbed as its own.
Moving on to economic news, starting from next June, the eastern province of BORDJ BOU ARERRIJ, also known as electronics capital, is holding the main foundation for the creation of the first national technologies industry pole. Such a step would render the province the pioneer in this domain, hence the lone attendant for investors in this industry as well as innovation. Karim Fazakri.
Electronics capital, the eastern province of BORDJ BOU ARERRIJ is hosting the main core for the creation of the first national pole of technologies industry in Algeria. This makes the province the first in this domain and thus the only companion for investors in industry and creativity.
The province of BOU ARERRIJ, this province characterized by its diverse economy and the pioneer in the electronics field, would constitute a perfect foundation for the development of communication technologies in addition to the holding of the core for the creation of a technological pole.
I'm thrilled that I was allowed to execute the orders of the Prime Minister to inaugurate this meeting, which constitutes the birth of a new technological pole in this modern province of BORDJ BOU ARERRIJ, and a model in more than one domain. Agriculture and electronics imposing special dynamism for many entrepreneurs.
Since there is no technology without scientific and technological research, the province of BORDJ BOU ARERRIJ will be the binding link between universities and technology under the supervision of Ministry of Post and Communication Technologies.
With this fruitful collaboration with research centers and many other operators and entrepreneurs, I'm particularly happy to reveal that we have actually started with a dozen entities, and now we have more than 40. And thanks to everyone's commitment, we have made this operational in less than 3 months.
Algeria is heading with steady steps toward a genuine digital wealth in an attempt to reach an economic alternative, in addition to coping with the current challenges in which technology has become an inseparable part in world industry.
The Ministry of Energy has resumed last week its various meetings with different employees' organizations in Algeria, in a move that may reflect a new direction for the government to open up energy investment field in front of national capital. Hints Minaras.
After endless meetings and media coverages being restricted on field visits assigned to supervise some of the sector's projects, the Ministry of Energy unusually opens up to discussions and consultations through welcoming this time representatives of employer organizations.
Today, and unlike the past, we met a minister ready to open his sector to the private institutions. It's not a matter of discreetness, it's a matter of competence.
Following the meeting that brought together the Minister of Energy, with a delegation from the Heads of Enterprises Forum last October. The relevant ministry has directed this time a call to the General Confederation of Algerian Institutions in a session that discussed the ways to devote a concrete partnership between the executive body and its economic partners, in a move that could divert the government's direction toward open investments in the field of energy, which has always been a taboo for the national capital.
If there is no trust between our sectors, we cannot, and it's logical to evolve. Trust has to be mutual, and this thwart policy has to end.
So it's a precedent for the Ministry of Energy, which has long associated its meetings with the latest development of Sonatrach. The agenda is still in its beginning, however. The ministry is on schedule with upcoming interviews from 5 other employers' organizations.
Agricultural commodities are going through a period of lower and less volatile prices, according to what it has been released today by FAO Food Outlook. However, the Algerian markets are making the exception due to many internal and external factors, according to economic experts. That's important economic reforms in Algeria are much needed. Karim Fazzakri again.
The decline of food prices in the international market, according to the report published by Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, doesn't seem to be true for Algeria. In fact, the Algerian markets are witnessing an unprecedented increase in prices. According to specialists, these increases in food supplies prices are due to many internal and external factors.
C'est le grossiste qui prend 3-4 fois la marge.
It's the wholesalers who are taking double and even triple benefits margin. The increase happens between the producer and the merchant. This is why there is a weak production. There is a discrepancy between the supply and the demand, with prices augmenting. As for the external factor, there is this depreciation of the dinar, in addition to internal factor representing a chaos in the domestic market. The Algerian focus on reducing imports to lessen the misbalance with the exports is by no way going to eradicate the problem for real. If we apply new reforms in 2016 and encourage all kinds of companies, be it private or public, we shouldn't make any kind of distinction between the two, because they are the ones potentially creating a permanent and a continuous wealth for the country. We need to eliminate all obstacles such as bureaucracy, the bank system, the real estate. Everything should be favorable for the economic atmosphere. The Algerian state is in possession of great potentials which enable it to overcome the economic crisis safely through making solid and deep reforms, with the encouragement of production on the top of the agenda, in addition to supervising those producers and importers so as they wouldn't inflate their benefit margin at the expense of the poor, simple citizen.
Moving on to health news, the Ministry of Health, Population and Hospitals Reform has reassured the Algerians that the percentage of Zika virus reaching Algeria is very low, as this virus is currently limited to Latin America. Despite the spread of this virus all over the world, Algerians seem very careless about this issue. This is because of the lack of awareness campaign.
At a time where Zika virus is affecting more people and places around the world, and recently Spain, which is not far away from Algeria, Algerian citizens don't have an appropriate preventive culture about this deadly disease.
Apparently, it's not a deadly disease. I think that some death cases were recorded, but it's not a big deal.
Zika is a disease which gets transmitted by mosquitoes in Brazil. Apparently, it affects pregnant women and babies, and it causes neurological abnormality. I think that it spread, and I learned from TV that pregnant women shouldn't travel. I hope it will not get here.
I personally haven't seen anything. I live here, but so far I haven't seen any sensitizing campaigns about the virus.
Amid the absence of field and media sensitizing campaigns, fears and concerns raised among Algerian citizens in the shade of the rapid spread of this disease which recently reached Europe.
You know, I am afraid because mosquitoes adore me. If we sit together, mosquitoes will bite me and not you. So I'm a little bit worried because mosquitoes adore me.
sincèrement, j'ai peur.
Si, qu'il y a un risque considérable.
Yes, there is a big risk, but I think it's a little bit far-fetched in Brazil, and I hope they will find solutions to it. If it reached Spain, so Algeria is threatened as well, but I hope they will find a remedy and the necessary vaccine.
Zika virus is a public health emergency of international concern, and it requires taking more serious preventive measures to hinder the rapid spread of this deadly disease, especially that Algeria is threatened according to its geographical location.
Moving on to world development, Syrian Foreign Minister Walid al-Muallim warned Saudi Arabia against intervening in Syria militarily, saying those who will enter the Syrian ground without the consent of the Syrian government will return to their countries in wooden boxes. In a press conference held in the capital Damascus, Syria's top diplomat said, quote, "We will resist any violations to our sovereignty." The head of the Syrian diplomacy said the logic and the normal sense rule out any possible intervention scenario, but reviewing the crazy decision made by Saudi Arabia in other areas suggests that nothing can be ruled out. Always with war-torn Syria, the number of Syrians trying to cross into Turkey amid an upsurge of fighting in northern Syria has nearly doubled. 35,000 refugees had reached the Turkish borders, up from an estimated 20,000 on Friday. Turkey says it is prepared to help the refugees, but the frontier remains shut. They are fleeing a Syrian government offensive on rebel-held positions near the northern city of Aleppo. In the past few days, the Syrian army, backed by Russian airstrikes, has made a series of gains around Syria's largest city. Rescuers were reaching late today, Saturday, for more than 100 people still missing after a powerful, shallow earthquake struck southern Taiwan before dawn, causing a high-rise residential building to collapse and killing at least 14 people. Nearly 340 people were rescued from the rubble in Tainan, the city hit worse by the quake. About 2,000 firefighters and soldiers scrambled with ladders, cranes and other equipment to the ruins of the 17th-floor residential building. Local authorities said today, Saturday night, that more than 100 people remained missing and that rescuers were racing to find them. In sports news, Premier League fans and analysts keep predicting each week that tiny Leicester City will eventually stumble at the top of the Premier League table, but the Foxes haven't lost a league match since September, and this afternoon opened up a 6-point lead in the standings and thrashing second place Manchester City 3-1 in the Etihad Stadium. Usama Stansi.
Premier League leaders Leicester stunned nearest rivals Manchester City with a convincing victory at Etihad Stadium to move 6 points clear. Robert Huth turned in Riyad Mahrez's free kick to give the Foxes an early lead. City really looked capable of breaking down the visitors' defence, while their own backline appeared vulnerable. Riyad Mahrez made it 2-0 with a step-over and finish, and Huth found space to head home a Christian Fuchs corner before Sergio Aguero's last consolation. Leicester had already beaten third-place Tottenham at White Hart Lane in January, but this resounding result against City was their most significant in a remarkable season. The Foxes have now picked up 28 points on their travels, and though they were denied a 6th clean sheet in their past 7 matches, this was another win earned by their solid defence. Aguero's glancing header from teenage substitute Bersant Selena's cross meant Manchester City retained their record of only failing to score once at home this season, but they had told in front of goal for much of the game. Claudio Ranieri's side travel to 4th-placed Arsenal next weekend, and people might be asking who can catch Leicester, rather than can the Foxes really win the league.
In his post-match interview, Riyad Mahrez, Algeria's international, has this to say. Let's follow.
I think, we did a great win, yes, here. But, left a lot of game, so we can't speak now about the title. It's a great win, but we have to keep going next game against Arsenal on 3 games after, we'll see. I think now we we're gonna fight for the title. We will see what we can do. Even us, we didn't expect to win here 3-1. So we're just gonna keep dreaming, and we'll see what can happen.
And finally, we will shed light on the beauty of Algerian desert, where the views of Al Qarara oasis and the palace of Irzar in the southern province of Adrar reveal the story and secrets of past generations. This palace became today a destination for Algerian tourists after it has been forsaken by foreigners. Hence Minaras.
If you're visiting southern Timimoun's red oasis 40 kilometers away, Irzar's ancient castles would be awaiting for your visit. The ancient heritage has been for generations the talk of the town between palaces and towns. Irzar Cave is hidden amongst antique, majestic palaces that were distinctively built on huge rocks.
Irzar is considered a significant touristic destination here in the province of Adrar. You'd inevitably come and visit Irzar if you're visiting the region of Timimoun. All touristic guides know the region. The region encloses some antique castles and caves. Irzar Cave is 120 meters deep and had 2 exits before natural factors ruined it.
This area has long witnessed a heavy flow of foreign tourists and a great source of attraction. The security issue, however, has heavily affected the region in recent years, and as a result, limited the turnout of visitors to basically northerners coming to the region in search for the southern sun's warmth.
In the past, foreign tourists came from all over the globe. Handicrafts in the region were really promoting for its tourism. But in recent years, foreign tourism has decreased. So instead, we get local tourists from the 4 corners of the country.
Despite the southern region of Timimoun's few visitors, this luckily hasn't affected its touristic prowess, remaining a milestone and the most attractive touristic destination in the country, notably an important factor in livening up the national economy.
Before we wrap up, let's have a reminder of our main top stories. Ahead of tomorrow's crucial voting session on the new constitution, the adoption of its organic laws looms as the opposition boycotts. Starting from next June, the eastern province of BORDJ BOU ARERRIJ is holding the main foundation for the creation of the first national technologies industry pole. Over 100 missing, scores dead as a strong quake rattles Taiwan. That's all for me, Nadia Kasmi, and the rest of the team. For more news, visit our website, our social media networks, and even our English Facebook page. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye for now.